All right, welcome to week 8. Week 8 of the course. We're officially at the middle of this week, halfway through the course. And again, it's been a pleasure to work with many of you and read your posts and develop ideas. Okay, so week 8 continues the third section of the course. And the third section of the course is based on the exploration of moral theories that aren't based on self-interest. So these are theories that tell us, here's what you ought to do, and you ought to do it. It's your duty to do it, regardless of whether it benefits you or not. So the first one is utilitarianism, and utilitarianism certainly counts for your happiness. You matter, but the duty is what produces the most overall happiness, and you could have a duty to do something that is not in your self-interest, that doesn't give you pleasure. Now with Kant, he's our second major theorist. He's a vastly, hugely important philosopher. One of the most important philosophers to have ever lived, and a giant in what we call metaphysics, as well as ethics. And he developed a deontological moral system. And essentially, deontology, that approach to ethics, says that there are certain things that are right, and certain behaviors, acts, attitudes, rules, principles, that are right no matter what, no matter the consequence, no matter the cost. There are certain things that you simply should do no matter what, even if it leads to a tremendous loss to yourself or to those that you love or to those that you're close to. For example, they might say, look, do not lie. That is a moral principle that you ought to follow no matter what happens, even if lying in a certain situation would help your friend, perhaps save a life if we imagine a wartime scenario. The idea is this is wrong no matter what. And so Kant is the spokesperson for this view, one of the spokespersons for this view, and he's who we're going to be exploring. And he bases his deontology on reason. He thinks that all human beings have an innate rationality, that if we just think purely logically, we can figure out what to do. So he thinks about ethics along the lines more of mathematics than poetry. And the idea, some of the essential principles of his moral theory are the idea of the categorical imperative, and there's two forms. One is what we call the means-end principle, and that essentially means that anyone who is rational deserves absolute respect. You have to respect their person. You cannot simply use them. You cannot simply approach them as, well, what can they do for me? What is the benefit that I can get out of them? If that is the way you approach another rational being, then you're wrong. You're immoral. The other facet of the categorical imperative is what one might call the principle of universalization. And in this principle, the idea is, well, think about your action that you're about to take, and think about the reason you're about to take it. Think about your justification. And then ask yourself, could everyone follow this justification without it becoming inconsistent, logically inconsistent and incoherent? So one quick example, you might say, well, I want to cheat on a test. And you might want to cheat on a test. The logic generally is, well, I want to get a better grade. But if everybody used that logic, which essentially says cheat on a test when it is in your self-interest, then everyone would cheat on tests, and the grade would become meaningless. And in that regard, the whole point of cheating on a test, to get a better grade, would evaporate. Grades wouldn't be trusted. And so your goal is destroyed by everybody essentially following your rule. All right, so that's what we're going to explore this week. And in terms of other ideas, or in terms of other protocol for this week, you finished up hopefully the midterm exam. So that was due by 11:59 Sunday nights, and I will grade those and get those back to you shortly. One thing about the midterm exam, there was one error in the quote section. Essentially, the answer should have been moral relativism. It was marked as wrong. So I've gone back and corrected that, and so you won't lose any points for that. Another thing about the exam, if you typed in the answer slightly differently than what was written, in terms of your choices, you got it wrong. but I've gone back and corrected that. So you got it wrong according to the official test system, but you will still earn credit for that. Okay. The reading for this week is John Mazzoni's Deontological Chapter in Ethics, the Basics. That's 103 to 124. As usual, you've got your discussion boards, so you've got to post to those. As always, just a reminder, make sure there are 4 submissions per week. One has to be a full post of at least 5 sentences, 5 full sentences. And one has to be a full response to a classmate, at least 5 full sentences. And the other 2 submissions can either be posts or responses. There is this week 8 overview, which you're watching, and you also have the week 7 recap video to kind of bring together some themes from last week. And then finally, you have your second short assignment, which will be due on Sunday night, 11:59 p.m. As always, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer questions. If you want to come in person to see me, please just email me and we can do that. And generally, I'm free on Wednesdays, are a great day to meet up. And then also the Sunday night conference call. Hardly anyone takes advantage of that. If you do want to take advantage of that, I encourage you to do so. All right. Have a great week.